Welcome to the Couple-preneurs Show, helping couples in business develop structure and strategies that nurture the balance between business and home, bringing you interviews and insights to give you the secret sauce of power couples. Here are your hosts, Oscar and Kaya Frazier.
Entrepreneurs, couplepreneurs, people in business, aspiring entrepreneurs. If any of these things sound like you are absolutely in the right place. Hello, and thank you again for jumping into the Couple-preneurs Show. Super excited today to be here and to actually introduce to you all a very special guest that we have today. But I'm sure that I'm about to screw something up. Kaya's already saying something right now. What am I about to do?
We got to acknowledge the sponsors.
There we go.
We got to acknowledge the sponsors. So first we have Carolina Runners. They are a family-owned trucking company. If you're an owner-operator that is looking for an authority, check them out. You can find them at carolina-runners.com. Again, that's carolina-runners.com. And then we also have Talk Shirt to Me, shirts that speak and help you express your style. You can find them at talkshirttome.com. It's spelled exactly how it sounds.
Look at you. You did that really well today.
Hey.
I mean, kudos to you.
I'm on my game.
I see. I see. So the reason why I'm so excited. So everyone that listens to our show, you all know that on a weekly basis, we're speaking to various experts in various fields, various entrepreneurs, couplepreneurs, etc. Well, today we've got an exciting guest who's going to be talking to us a lot about ways to improve your business, ways to start to blend your gifts with your passions and those sorts of things. So I'm super excited to introduce to all of you Mrs. Candace Chambers. Candace, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm well. How are you all?
Doing great. Excited to have you here.
All right. And the name of your company, Educational Writing Services, LLC. If you can, give the listenership just a background of what that is, what you do, how you got into it, and what you all are doing now.
Okay. So I started Educational Writing Services in 2017, and my focus was to provide quality writing services to students, but also professionals. So I started the company due to my background in English. So I majored in English in undergrad and also with my master's. And so I did English education. So I learned education as far as K-12, but also education on the college level. And I saw a need to extend what I was learning, in college to extend it into the community. So I started the company providing editorial services for graduate students, also professionals, but also providing writing services and college services to students, high school students, and also students who are already in college through avenues of coaching and also scholarship essay writing. And so the base of the company is just extending literacy into the community, and that's what we stand on.
Excellent. I wish I knew you back when I was in college. Man, I could have probably utilized your services. I don't want to reveal my age, but it's about 20 years ago. But I would definitely have loved to have had known someone like you that could help with those sort of services for sure.
Absolutely.
Yep. So in my experience, right, and I can speak from my lens as a couplepreneur, and myself and Kaya being in business, for the last almost 17 years now. But once we got thrusted out into having to do it full time, it really was always a battle between trying to determine what our gift really is versus what our passions are and where those really lie. And we got kicked out on the street in 2012 and pretty much lost everything.
Kicked out.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. We had to learn and pretty much try to crawl, walk, run at the same exact time. So, Candace, I'd love to understand a little bit more about within your organization or from your experiences, what is that like trying to merge one's gifts with their passions?
Okay, so I'll start with my personal experiences and then I'll kind of merge into what I do with the business. So, going through school and college, I knew I was a pretty decent writer, and I knew that I like to educate, others. I did it in my church, in the community, things like that. But in college, I would write for the school newspaper. I was an English major, and I'm like, okay, this is something that I'm kind of clearly gifted at, but, how can I use this as a career? But I also knew that I love to teach. And so that's where I lit up in the classroom. So I would identify that as more of a passion. And so after my graduate school experience, I started reading a lot of books about Black entrepreneurship and just investing and like just getting your own and really crafting things around like, what you're good at. And so I'm like, okay, let me try to merge this English thing with this education thing and try to make a business out of it. And so with the educational consulting space, I'm like, okay, I think this would be cool because the concept works in college settings, like with writing and literacy and college coaching, it works there. So I would imagine it would work in the community. And so now when I assist graduate students or I assist like high school students, I'm really adamant about helping them to see like, okay, is this a career field that you would potentially like to go into? And then like, how could we potentially like, steer you in that direction? But also when I'm helping them with their writing samples, I always want them to identify like, what are your gifts? What are your passions? How can we put this in your writing so it can be more fruitful when you do apply for scholarships or you do some type of writing sample? Because, it'll come out a bit more clear and concise and they'll enjoy it more. So I use my experiences when I came up with the company because it's just a more fruitful experience, like, because I like it. So I try to impact that with the students that I work with, whether they're adults or, high school students, to really tap into what are they good at. And so let's put that in your writing, let's put that in a career path, and then you'll live potentially a more fruitful life.
That is excellent.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. When you made that decision versus going into like a corporate job, when you made that decision to build your own, what did that feel like for you? Were you nervous? Were you scared? Like, what was that ultimate feeling and how did you overcome it?
Okay, so it was super scary because I was going into a direction whereas like, when I'm in college or grad school, well, not all the time, but most of the time they're kind of training you to work for a university or training you to work kind of for someone else. And so I would be in conversations. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be a professor. Or like, yeah, I'm going to do this, knowing good and well I was not going to probably work at a university. But that was just like the cookie cutter answer to give. But when I started my PhD program, I'm like, okay, no, I'm going to try to verbally say that I would like to work for myself and see it that, manifest, even if, do I really believe it? Like I'm trying to tell people that I want to do it, but do I believe it? And so the process of believing it came with a lot of fear and apprehension because I hadn't seen people do it before and I didn't have many models. Now I had plenty of models to work for someone else, which is nothing wrong with. But right. As far as like, doing it for myself, it was something I kind of had to carve out. And I'm still doing it to this day. Like I do part-time work at a college, but I'm still, riding that wave of faith to say like, no, this, I want to do everything full-time for myself.
Right. Absolutely. That's very impressive. I know like from just what you said and like when people are in school and they're studying like these various programs and these different degrees, and they tend to like think to themselves, because to your point, most schools are teaching you how to essentially go get a job, right? Like you go get a degree and they're training you up to go work for someone else. And when you're talking about this, I love to hear and I love to learn more about how someone could potentially take their talents and what they've earned within their degree program to be able to start a business. Is that something that you've seen that you would be able to encourage others to be able to do?
I would say yes. And I would say that even if they don't do it full time, business doesn't have to be 100% of your income. I think that, I feel like it's a lot of educated people out here who have a lot of, degrees. Thankfully, I didn't have to acquire any student loans, but it's a lot of people who have student loan debt. And I'm like, why not use what you have, attained in a degree program to potentially make another source of income with the business that you can create based on what you have been able to attain in a college or university. So I think that, even though we might not be trained as much to come up with an idea on our own and figure out a feasible business, I think it's worth a shot. And I see that a lot of people use their talents and gifts at a company or organization, and they can use those same talents and gifts on their own. And so I think that if we have more conversations about like potentially, start something on the side, consulting thing, or like, find a gap that you are clearly probably filling at your job, you can potentially fill that in your, on your side time as well. In addition, if you do keep your 9 to 5, you'll still have another source of income to, sustain your living.
Absolutely.
I like the fact that you said finding a gap, right? So if you're in that corporate space and you see that there is a gap, whether it be that you're, providing services or helping to build a product or something, and you see that gap, you can leverage that gap to potentially start your own. I like that advice.
Yes, I would totally agree, and that's what I did when I started. Well, it was a motivation to start my own business. I worked in writing centers at colleges and universities, and so I saw a gap that people needed more editorial services. So I'm like, well, let me fill that gap, and do a business on my own. And it's, people see gaps all the time, where like, companies come together all the time to figure out like, okay, how can we meet this gap, or how can we close this gap? And potentially someone can start a whole business to fill that gap.
Absolutely. So Candace, do you, as far as your client base, is it only students, or do you also work with small businesses and entrepreneurs that need help with writing, or what does that look like as well?
All right. So I work with students, like you said, so either graduate students or college students or high school students. And then also I work with professionals. So I work with people who are, with their resumes, cover letters, things like that. And I also work with some nonprofits as far as like their website copy, their business plans, or just like anything dealing with writing. So it's kind of a range of spectrum. I started with the vision with education only, but at the same time, I can educate people, through a resume, through a cover letter. So from like high school all the way up into a career professional, I have a suite of services to provide.
Excellent. And getting back to like your overall gift, right? Like gift versus passion and those sorts of things. One of the things that I've observed with a lot of people that initially want to start their own business, it's usually something like passion driven, right? They're kind of thinking, I want to do something to help my community, or I want to do something that's going to make an impact, right? And from your experiences, what are some of the ways that people can use their gifts to serve their community as well? Because in our world, when we're looking at couplepreneurs and people in business and aspiring couplepreneurs, they tend to first come to us with like, we want to do something, we're just not sure what that is yet. We know we want to help people. Like, what's that look like for you?
All right, so I'll do it the same way I did the other question. So I'll start with my personal experiences, and then I'll lead into the general advice. So I know with my business, one thing that I've added to my suite of services is the college coaching piece. Whereas I guide students every month through the college coaching process. Even though I'm still helping them with their writing, I'm still preparing them for the college process, so it's comprehensive. But that stems out of a frustration. So like I kept seeing students not prepared for the college process, and they get to the end of their 12th grade year and like, oh, I think I want to go to college, but they're not prepared. And so I was always doing the writing piece, but I needed to add something else. So I said it the same. It came out of some type of frustration or a problem that I kept seeing. And my advice would be, if someone wants to start a business to help other people, first they should identify an audience. So like what? Oh, sir.
No, go ahead. That was one of our computers going off.
Okay. I said they should identify a targeted audience that they would potentially like to help. Like, like who do they see the need as greatest? They can watch the news sometimes to see like what issues keep popping up. They can look at statistics in their local area. They can talk to teachers, like business owners, things that people are addressing in the community or like they see as a problem, and then target those issues, because I feel like a business solves some type of problem. So for me, it was a frustration that I went after and like, okay, I have to do something about it. I can complain about it all day, but like, how can I fix it? And so I think that if they can identify frustration in some type of audience and do it with, care, and not just because I want to start a business, but they're actually meeting some type of need.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, as you were talking, something just now, a bell just rang off in my head, and it wasn't just the meeting alarm, but what I was thinking about with a lot of our couplepreneurs, a lot of them are experts in their specific area or their subject domain area, but they may not be good at writing. right? They may not be someone who can put together a business plan or who can put together, to your point earlier, like website copy, etc. But they have this idea, right? They're good at that, right? So I could see a lot of value in you talking to various aspiring entrepreneurs as well, just so that way they can kind of begin to get what's in their head out of it and onto paper. Have you already been helping people from that regard as well?
Yes, I have. So that I would say, not to my own horn, but like that's a strong suit that I have. Like everybody's strong in something, and getting things out of people's head and onto paper is one of my strong suits. And so I agree with you. A lot of times people are stagnated because they can't really get their thoughts on the page. They have genius ideas, but they just need someone to help them communicate those ideas on the page. And so that is one of the services that I offer. And it's been a success because people are able to just keep moving, and they're not stagnated because they can't put their ideas on the page.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely an excellent message to our listeners. If you have ideas, if you're thinking about jumping into a new business, a new entrepreneurial path, then, don't let not knowing exactly how to formulate it or write it down or what your messaging is going to be stop you from seeking out services from somebody like Candace and get them to help pull that out of you and get your messaging, right, so that you can go ahead and move to the next step. I think that's excellent.
Yeah,
that's
super excited for people to hear that.
Yeah,
for sure. Candace, how can people get in contact with you if they wanted to have some of your services?
Okay. So they could contact me at my website, which is www.edwritingservices.org, or you can find me on Facebook at Ed Writing Services, or you can just Google my name, Candace Chambers, Candace, because people spell it incorrectly. So Candace Chambers on Google, and they can contact me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, this has been absolutely, I think, a powerful show. I think the listenership is going to benefit from knowing that they don't have to struggle trying to figure out how to get copy on the paper, but they can begin to get with someone like, Educational Writing Services, LLC, by way of Candace Chambers to learn more about how to get those things on the paper. So I'm excited to get this one out and getting this one live. So again, Candace, thank you so much for your time. We're looking forward to hopefully having you on the show here again soon.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay.
You've been listening to the Couple-preneurs Show. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.kothoughtleaders.com.